to Timeless with Julie Hartman Live. We are 5 episodes in to this live show, which, by the way, is every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Julie Hartman, in case I didn't make that clear. We have got misinformation in the producer's dungeon. Hello, misinformation.
Yo.
For those of you who don't understand the reference, you had to be there. Should watch the show yesterday. It was, I rewatched the show yesterday. It was the best part of the entire show. And by the way, I told my roommate about it. She doesn't watch me, which is totally fine. I'm not hurt by that at all. No, I'm kidding. I actually don't care. I love it that most close people to me in my life don't watch me. But I told her that, and she died laughing. So we're keeping it. Misinformation. That is Sean's drag queen name. It is Tuesday, February 20th. 2024, which, by the way, means that we are 14% of the way done with 2024. I was looking up the date today. The only reason why I would look up the date is because I have to say it at the beginning of every episode. And I thought, wow, we're almost done with 2 months of 2024. And then I calculated it. We're chugging along. 2025 is coming up real soon. So savor this, especially savor this time before the 2024 election, because as we're going to talk about today, that is when stuff is going to get crazy. 844-861-5537, 844-861-5537. Shout out to Bob in Atlanta yesterday for being the first caller on this show, and he was pretty good. Wouldn't you agree, misinformation? Thought that he asked a good question. He was classy. The chat has been staying classy. Let's endeavor to keep it that way. And by the way, before we launch into our stories of today, I have a question for all of you. As many of you know, or those of you who've been watching me for some time know, I really like doing chunks of my show about things that have nothing to do with politics. I'm like the random topic generator, because I'm very curious about literally everything in life. Honestly, not chemistry, biology. Those are the things I'm not as interested in, but everything else I find to be endlessly fascinating. And I will always find topics to talk about, but I was thinking I should ask you if there are any topics that you want me to profile. If there's an artist, for example, that you would like to learn more about. If there's a historical event, a historical figure, a book that maybe you'd like me to do a book club episode about. Again, I'll come up with it, whether or not you have suggestions for me, but I thought it would be fun if you as the audience, you loyal listeners of Timeless with Julie Hartman, could give me some things that you'd like to see discussed. So please do let me know. You can drop it in the chat. You can leave a comment down below, or as always, you can email me at julie@julie-hartman.com.
You know, Julie,
yes.
A lot of people don't know this, but one of the possible names for your show was Chunks.
There were many possible
Chunks with Julie Hartman.
There were many possible names for my show. That was certainly not one of them. You know what's funny? Do you remember the days when we were coming up with the name for Dennis and Julie? Now, people listening are going to go, that's a pretty easy name, Dennis and Julie. Like, why did it take so long to come up with? Do you remember some of the iterations?
Yeah.
It was so funny. There was someone in this company, I'm not going to name names. This person is great. But there was someone in this company who wanted to name it Dennis and the Harvard Whiz.
Yeah, I wanted Beauty
so
and
funny?
the Beast.
I know, you did. That would have been funny.
Good.
But it's like Dennis and the Harvard Whiz. First of all, I'm Julie Hartman. I'm not the Harvard Whiz, you know? And also, I was just the Harvard Whiz for 4 years.
Did you dress like Harley Quinn on purpose?
No, I dressed like Jordan Peterson on purpose.
Do you even know who Harley Quinn is?
I was hoping that we would pass that by without you interrogating me. Yeah, I definitely know who that is. Totally got the reference. Gonna Google it after. No, I look like Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson has the famous Heaven and Hell suit. By the way, speaking of non-political topics that I love to do on Timeless, I interviewed his suit designer, who is a lovely Ukrainian man. I met him at the ARC conference in London, and he was wearing this really interesting suit. So I walked up to him and said, what is that all about? And it turns out that he was Jordan Peterson's suit designer. And he made 12 different suits for Jordan Peterson that corresponds to each of the 12 rules for life. That's Jordan Peterson's great book, 12 Rules for Life. And the most famous one is the Heaven and Hell suit, which you should watch the episode to find out more about. But yeah, I guess I'm looking like JP today, which is a big compliment I could give myself. I love that guy. All right, let's go on to one of the first stories we're going to talk about, which is that Britain has lost its mind. The good news is it's not just the United States. The bad news is it's not just the United States. If we had some holdouts around the world of common sense, I think all of us would feel a lot better. But there's a story that was profiled in the Telegraph UK yesterday. And the headline is that the British National Health Service says that that milk for babies from men is just as good as milk from women. Okay? I know.
Wow.
But, maybe you're healthier than I am. I don't even have that reaction anymore. I see this all the time. Like, it doesn't even...
Oh.
I know. Poor babies. Oh, my God.
Oh.
I know. So,
Oh.
this is coming out of the University of Sussex Hospital Trust. And that is affiliated with the National Health Service Trust in the UK. The National Health Service is the state-run health service, and trust is just another word for like an organizational unit. So this hospital is under the jurisdiction of the NHS. And by the way, this is the hospital which was the first to come out and rename breastfeeding as chest feeding. So they certainly have a track record of being a little kooky. But yes, the University of Sussex Hospital Trust recently released a statement saying that the breast milk produced by trans women, aka biological men, is just as safe for the baby and just as good for the baby as natural milk produced by a mother. Now, for those of you who are unaware, men do not naturally lactate in the same way that women do. However, there are certain hormones that men can take and women can take if they struggle with lactating that can bring about that process. One of those hormones is called doperidone. Don't you ever notice with these hormones, it's like, could they have named it something easier to say? Doperidone. But so a lot of these trans men are loading up on this drug as well as other hormones to will themselves to lactate. And according to the NHS, that milk, which is produced as a result of the hormones and the other drugs, is just as safe and healthy for the baby as natural mother's milk. Okay? So here's the thing. When you look at a story like this, or at least when I look at a story like this, as I just said with Sean, it is just kind of like a penny in the jar because we see this all the time. And one of the things I have to say that really bothers me is when I encounter people who gaslight me and gaslight others that this is not happening to the extent that it is really happening. Like people will say, oh, well, that's just one hospital that's gone crazy. But this is kind of a fringe thing. Like no one is actually practicing this. That has been refuted so many times. And in fact, on this show, I have done episodes. I've dedicated entire episodes to debunking the, oh, it's just a fringe thing myth. I've given examples. I recently did an episode where I talked about the American Psychiatric Association, who recently, or who is a person? See, I'm trying to work on my language. The American Psychiatric Association is not a who, it's a which. The American Psychiatric Association released a textbook which says that, which helps prospective doctors facilitate transitions for double queer people, for people who have autism. Yes, that's right. There are chapters in that book dedicated to how to transition an autistic individual from their sex. It is beyond sick. And this is the American Psychiatric Organization. That isn't exactly like a fringe thing.
Wait. What is double queer?
I don't know. I don't even try to learn it anymore. You know what's funny?
Okay. All right.
You know what's funny? I think it was, who's the governor of New York? Cuomo, the former governor. Governor Cuomo's daughter. She came out a few years ago as demisexual. And I remember I was in the studio with Dennis, and Dennis was on the air. And he was reading this. He was going, it was Michaela Kennedy Cuomo. I remember he goes, Michaela Kennedy Cuomo comes out as demisexual. And he reads the definition of demisexual. And it means that a demisexual person is someone who needs to have a emotional attraction to their partner before they feel comfortable hooking up with their partner. And so Dennis is reading, he says that demisexual individual is a person who needs to have a emotional connection with their partner before a physical connection with their partner. And he pauses and he goes, so a demisexual is just all women. It's so true. They've come up with all these labels, and it's like, what do they even mean anymore? I don't know, Sean. I don't even take the time to look at it. But
I'm looking it up on the internet. The internet doesn't
double
know.
Queer?
Yeah.
Maybe they're like trans and bisexual. I'm not being facetious. I'm genuinely putting forth a theory here. Maybe they're like multiples of the LGBTQ.
Maybe they're just really heavy queer people.
Okay. Anyway, hey, that's as good of a theory as any misinformation. But the point is, this is not a fringe thing, okay? I could give countless examples. I talked about the American Psychiatric Association. The American Medical Association had this campaign to remove gender from birth certificates because the person should be able to decide their gender. I also profiled a story pertaining to the Wisconsin Department of Corrections that many sex offenders, i.e. men, are identifying as women, and they are being transferred to women's sections of the prison. I've done countless shows profiling State Department of Education codes, which in several blue states, almost all blue states, mandate that kids as young as 10 years old, in many cases younger, are exposed to these radical gender and race theories. So that's just a little, disclaimer for someone who is prepared to gaslight me that this is not happening. It is happening, and I've got my binders to prove it.
Just wake me up when a biological male gives birth, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Until then, I'm out.
Yep. But you look at a story like this, and as I said, it's just another penny in the jar. But what fascinates me about it is, how did we get here? Why is this happening? Like, what is really behind it? And the fundamental thing is that we now live in a culture which is just lies. Like, just total lies. We're just bathing in deceit. And it's not just misinformation. Misinformation is kind of a misinformation. It's kind of a separate component of lies. But this is like literally a lie about the fundamental truth and etching together of society. And so, if you look at history, lying isn't new. Like, all throughout the course of history, we have historical lies. We have lies about people. People are accused of things that they didn't do. Propaganda is as old as time. I mean, you go through every single country, or especially dictatorial regimes, and this is commonplace. But the thing that really makes this moment different, I think, is that it's no longer just historical lies or propaganda. It's lies about reality itself. And that puts us kind of in a different category. Lies about literally, like, taking a gender and saying that it is not that gender. Taking, as we see with the Oregon Department of Education, taking something like math and saying that doing math properly is white supremacy. That's a totally different flavor of lies than what we've seen throughout history. I mean, if you look at a lot of dictatorial regimes, or if you look at a lot of countries, yes, lies have existed. I mean, we lied in this country that black people were inferior to white people, and that's why we enslaved them. That is a gargantuan lie. But again, this kind of lie about reality itself is a totally different flavor. And so I look at that and I wonder, where did this come from? And the answer is Marxism. Marxism really kind of invented this different category of lies that is about, like, science and reality itself. And so I did some digging. I'm actually reading a book right now about the Soviet Union and all of the lies and propaganda and the way that they functioned. It's absolutely fascinating. I will undoubtedly do a show, or perhaps many shows, about it. And one of the most interesting parts is when they talk about the farming methods in the Soviet Union. And there was a man I learned about in this book, and his name is Trofim Liensko. Lyensko. And he was a Soviet pseudoscientist. It's not right to call him a scientist because that is an insult to scientists. He was a pseudoscientist. And he had this theory of farming, which was widely adopted in the Soviet Union. And then it was borrowed by communist China under Mao Zedong. And he had this theory that you need to plant seeds close to one another because plants from the same class never compete with each other. So you see, it's like a Marxist communist ideology that he was applying to planting. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't know a lot about farming and planting myself. I'm a city girl growing up in Los Angeles. But what I do know, and what Google has confirmed to me from my research, is that you need to be very meticulous with how you space plants. Plants need room to grow. With some plants, it's a very small amount. You need 4 inches or 6 inches apart from seeds. But essentially, it is anti-scientific. It goes against what we know about farming to say that you have to plant these seeds all close together. And so this Soviet pseudoscientist, in the name of Marxism and, avoiding class conflict, perpetuated this theory about farming. And as a result, there was no crop yield on a massive scale. And that's why we saw the famines in the Soviet Union. And as I said, Mao Zedong's communist China borrowed this technique from this Soviet pseudoscientist. And they had the Great Famine, which killed between 45 and 60 million people between 1958 and 1962. Another theory that this individual had, Lyensko, was that the concept of a gene or DNA is a bourgeoisie invention. So he was essentially saying, like, there's no such thing as having genes. And if you talk about, I have good genes or bad genes, then you're perpetuating class conflict. The point is, this, I think, at least given my research, in the Soviet Union, in the communist 20th century regimes, was the first time that this new category of lying was introduced. That is, lying about science and reality itself in the name of ideology. Now, again, people would say, well, wait a minute, like all of these regimes lie about reality. Again, it was a lie about reality. In fact, the greatest lie about reality, that black people are inferior to white people or Jews are inferior to Aryans. Obviously, that's true. But I think you understand what I'm saying, where it's like our material things, the way that plants grow, our biology, that is a new arena of attack. And I just want to show you some pictures of propaganda from the Soviet Union and from communist China. Let's pull up picture 4. This is a picture from the Soviet Union where they are abiding by Lyshenko's farming techniques. And I don't know if we have the photo. Yeah, we have it right here. This woman looks so happy. She's standing and there's abundant grain growing behind her. And she looks like she's thriving. But obviously, everyone was starving. And then we have a picture 5 of a similar piece of propaganda, but in Mao's communist China. He had something that was called backyard furnaces, where Mao Zedong in the Chinese Communist Party, here it is right here, he made people in the countryside have what was called backyard furnaces, which were purposefully non-functioning or a very low level of functioning in order to make steel. And so there were more advanced techniques for people to do industrial work, but Mao mandated that they have the most primitive furnaces because he wanted to perpetuate a permanent socialist revolution in the countryside. He never wanted people to be that economically developed, because then once you start really economically developing, you kind of exit the realm of socialism and communism and go into the realm of capitalism. And so, again, when I look at this story of the National Health Service in Britain succumbing to this trend, of saying that men are women, women are men, there are no differences between the two sexes, it reminds me of this: a war on reality itself in the name of ideology. And our ideology now is not overtly Marxist, but it's a 21st century American European flavor on Marxism. Marxism said that the proletariat, i.e. the working class, had to rebel against the bourgeoisie, seize the means of productions, and eliminate the bourgeoisie's stranglehold on, economic matters. And that will produce a utopia for everyone. Well, we don't have that exact argument going on in the United States, but we have a kind of variation of it, where you insert race or you insert gender. And you say that, we have to rebel against the systems of white supremacy, seize the means of how things work. We have to rebel against the system of heteronormativity and patriarchy. So that's what's going on here. It's always so fascinating to me to see the historical precedents or the historical roots of the kind of stuff that we're seeing now, and is just bewildering to us. Doesn't come from nowhere.
You have a beautiful mind, Jules.
By the way, I know that's a
how many
movie.
People would have made that connection. It's a great movie.
I've
Russell
never seen
Crowe
it, but
and Jennifer Connelly. I think Ron Howard directed it. Love that movie.
Well, thank you for saying that. That's very
nice.
nice.
The only reason I jumped in, did you see the story out of Massachusetts about the transgender basketball player?
What is it?
A Massachusetts high school girls basketball team was forced to forfeit its game after a transgender player on the opposing team injured 3 players. They decided to forfeit because they were worried they wouldn't have enough players to play in the playoffs.
Everything in the name of ideology. Everything. So I have a question for you. Do you think that these individuals really believe in this? Like, do you think the people at the National Health Service who were behind this, male breast milk is just as healthy for the babies as female breast milk, do you think that they truly believe that men and women have no biological differences?
No, I don't believe they believe that, but I do probably believe that they have convinced themselves that what they're doing is important.
Right.
Which is scarier.
Right. Yeah. That's what interests me. I think I know there are people my age and certainly younger who truly, truly believe that there are no biological differences between men and women. And I do blame them, but they have been so brainwashed, and this was literally taught to them, that in a way you can't blame them. But yeah, with these people, it's like, it's right in front of you. How do you still parrot these lies? It's absolutely insane. By the way, later in the show, we're going to talk about a really amazing event that happened 62 years ago today. But you know what happened 176 years ago today? Speaking of Marxism, the Communist Manifesto was published. February 20th, 1848, Marx and Engels published the Communist Manifesto. Oh my gosh, how much better our world would be if they never published that book. Frankly, if they had never been born, but that book changed everything. And how interesting that today we're talking about how relevant these ideas still are and how much they have really facilitated a stranglehold on our society. All right, let's talk now about Trump and his legal troubles. I feel like I have to give a trigger warning whenever we talk about Trump, because so many people, oh my God, he's a dictator, he's authoritarian, he's so awful. Okay, let's dive into this here. So, as many of you probably saw some headlines, there's another legal battle that is going on or has gone on between former President Donald Trump and the people who hate him. He is already facing 2 state and 2 federal indictments. Shameless plug, I did a Julie Noted segment on this, and I went through each of those 4. 2 state, 2 federal, and I talked about why they're bringing the charges against him, and I gave my analysis of how much credence I think certain charges hold. By the way, just a little thing to say, it wasn't all, my saying that it was 100% political persecution. I think that has a lot to do with it. But with certain cases, certainly the classified documents one, I was saying, there may be something to this. So please do watch out if you want a more in-depth legal analysis. But a few days ago, a New York judge ruled that Donald Trump and his company, the Trump Organization, cannot do business in New York for 3 years. And he is mandated to pay $354.9 million in penalties. That is actually going to amount to be closer to $450 million once interest is accounted for. Well, why is he barred from doing business in New York for 3 years and has to pay the state of New York $450 million? Allegedly, it is because he allegedly way overstated his net worth in order to get loans. And so apparently Donald Trump said that he overstated his net worth by as much as $3.6 billion over a decade in order to make himself seem more rich, to get loans. And one of the most, talked about parts of his exaggeration is that he said that Trump Tower, or his little apartment, not so little apartment in Trump Tower, was 30,000 square feet when it was actually 10,000 square feet. But here's the thing. They're making him pay all this money. They're saying that he did something wrong, and maybe he did, but there was no allegation that he didn't pay back the loans. And there was no complaint from the companies, the entities that lent him the money. So no harm, no foul. Look, I don't think it's good to overstate how much you're worth, but nothing came out of this. He paid them back. There's no challenge from those individuals. This was something that was concocted in the state of New York to go after the former president. And the thing that I don't understand is, if you are trying to inspire confidence in the American people, that you adjudicate the law fairly, that you apply the law equally to people, that you are not going after him because he's Donald Trump, this is a pretty horrible way to convince the American people that you are impartial. And this is just insane. And we saw that there was that E. Jean Carroll case where Donald Trump had to pay E. Jean Carroll, who's like the worst witness ever, most witness who does not inspire a lot of trust, $83 million. So that means if we combine just the past month of these civil cases against Donald Trump, he has to pay the state of New York over $500 million. You think that's a little excessive? It's crazy. It really is crazy. So as I said, he's also facing 2 state and 2 federal indictments, not properly citing hush money to a porn star, apparently mishandling classified documents. He also has that racketeering charge, which is truly absurd, in the state of Georgia, that was brought by Fani Willis, who's sleeping with the special prosecutor who's bringing the case against Trump. It's also convoluted. But there's a Wall Street Journal columnist named Holman Jenkins, and he has a theory. He would respond to what I just said, which is that if they're trying to inspire confidence that they are impartial, they're not doing a very good job. He would respond to my assertion by saying, no, you have it wrong. They want the American people to think there's a 2-tiered system of justice. They want the right wing to think that Donald Trump is being sought after, because Holman Jenkins says this is part of President Biden's campaign strategy. He wants Donald Trump to be the nominee. He says that that's the only way that President Biden can win, is if he's matched up against Donald Trump, because he knows that he can't win or get elected on the merits of his presidency, and also he's far too old to serve. And so the whole campaign essentially is, well, I'm not Trump. In order for him to have that campaign where he's saying, I'm not Trump, he needs Trump to run against him. So Holman Jenkins is saying they're actually throwing all of these indictments. They're trying to make it look like political persecution to get the right riled up, to have them throw their support behind Donald Trump so that Donald Trump is the nominee against Joe Biden and Joe Biden can defeat him. I gotta say, plausible. I think that's a not outlandish theory.
I mean, the timing of all these cases is interesting.
Absolutely.
They had all this time to do this stuff, and it's all happening now, which is, at least makes me raise an eyebrow. I don't know if I can do that on command.
No, it's true. I mean, if they were so convinced that Donald Trump was a threat to democracy, was a threat to the business world, that he needed absolutely to be barred from doing business, that he was holding these classified documents, why did they wait to bring forth these indictments until a year before the presidential election? Now, they would argue, well, they needed time to build up the evidence. And by the way, I have maybe 15% of sympathy to that argument. You do need time to build a case. But a lot of these cases, especially the ones that are so, old, the E. Jean Carroll incident allegedly happened 30 years ago. This whole Donald Trump inflating his net worth happened at least a decade ago, or over the course of a decade. I mean, what was the other one? The Eric Adams one, where he improperly cited hush money to Stormy Daniels. That happened in 2015 or 2014. So it's totally the timing. But we're really facing a problem right now in this country, because look, I don't think it's fair to say that Trump is an authoritarian. I don't think it's fair to say that he's a dictator, because we saw for 4 years that he wasn't a dictator or an authoritarian. But if they're worried about that, they're creating a dictator right now. They are. They are creating an authoritarian. And I don't say this in a happy way at all. But it's like, how far can you push the guy? And when Donald Trump comes out with these statements, which, by the way, I don't think he should say, I don't think it helps him. It certainly doesn't make it easy for people to support him. But when he comes out and he says, I'm going to go after these people, I'm going to persecute, or I'm going to, seek vengeance on the people who have wronged me, you look at this, and in a way you can't blame him. Of course, I'm not advocating for lawlessness. I'm not advocating for him to do the same thing to them that they are doing to him. No one is above the law, but no one is beneath the law either. But again, it's like, if you're so afraid of a possible Trump dictatorship, you are doing everything possible to make sure that comes about.
No, I understand that your point that they're kicking a sleeping dog or
they
whatever.
Are.
But I would caution you to use the word dictator. I think that's misused by the left. I don't think Trump has ever been close to being a dictator. We shouldn't
agree.
throw that word around lightly, and I don't think you should say it right now, that they're creating a dictator. He can go through all this and not become a dictator. I just think we got to be careful with the words we choose. I don't think he has any intention of being a dictator. Period. Not only that, I don't think it's possible. I don't think anyone could ever get to that point in this country. I want to believe that America is not capable of having a dictator. But I don't know. It seems a bit strong.
No, look, as I said, I don't think he was one. I think that's preposterous to even suggest that, and I don't think he will become one. I am planning on voting for him. I wouldn't vote for him if I thought he was going to become a dictator. The point I'm trying to make is that they are going down a really bad road if they continue. And they're kicking the dog, as you say. They're really pushing him to the limit. And if they see him do things that they don't like, such as retaliate against them, they need to know they're laying the groundwork right now for him to do that.
They can anger him. He can get all riled up. And at that point, I still don't think he's a dictator. There's a lot that goes into that. And it's just fiery language that the left has been using to paint Donald in a certain light, and I don't even see an angry Donald Trump becoming a dictator. I don't know. Maybe I'm naive. But I don't see it that way.
I agree with you, but again, I think they are pushing him to the limit. And I'm not saying that he'll become a dictator, but what I am saying is that he may act out, he may get angry, he may get rash. And they're pushing him, they're pushing him to behave in ways that they claim that they don't like.
Yeah, we've never seen anyone quite treated like this. It's kind of ridiculous. Even to the point, look, and this is a little lighter, but he had the release of the shoes over the weekend.
Oh my gosh, yes. We should
Trump
get some
sneakers,
of those.
Right? You can't. They sold out. There were only 1,000
really?
of them. They sold out immediately at $400 a pair for these golden Trump sneakers.
Oh my God.
And then you start seeing articles on the left saying he's doing this to help pay for the real estate fine that he was given. And I have to laugh when I see that, because
by the way,
$400 a pair, he would have to sell 499,000 pairs of golden Trump sneakers to pay that off. This is ridiculous. And he's been working on it long before the fine ever came out. But that just shows you the rhetoric and the level to which people wake up and they just orange man bad.
Yep.
It ruins their day. Like I don't like Gavin Newsom.
Oh.
I wasn't a big fan of politicians on the left, but it didn't ruin my day. It doesn't encompass everything I do. But we see that in this country. It's very unhealthy, to go back to what you were talking about, the lying about reality that we're living in right now, that people, they are consumed with this.
Right. And by the way,
they must get Donald Trump.
Yes. And by the way,
when they know that Biden is a problem.
I know, and
the evidence is all around them.
Well, that is authoritarian. I mean, I think that I hear your point. We throw around these terms too loosely and they've really cheapened their meaning. I mean, look at what's happened with all of these words. Racism doesn't really mean anything anymore. Sexism, patriarchy, oppression. You look at those words and you go, huh? We had Monica Harris on the show, and she's the head of the Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism. And that's actually a great organization. She is representing people who have like spoken out at universities and they've gotten canceled for their beliefs. So she runs a really great organization. But I said to her on the air, I said, the name of your organization to me seems woke, because intolerance and racism no longer truly mean intolerance and racism. They've been so perverted by the left that I read that and I think that it's a woke organization. My point is that I agree with you. These terms have been co-opted. But the way that they are going after Trump right now, that is authoritarian. That is dictatorial, you know? It is relentless political persecution.
There's a lot of projection here where they accuse the other side of what they themselves do. And it's, look, just as another joke, it's not the sneakers that matter. It's the Trump fragrance, Victory 47. That is for sale at gettrumpsneakers.com. Trump 47, the fragrance. I can't imagine what that smells like or why you would want to smell like. Look, I'm doing the Trump thing. I can't imagine what the Trump 47 smells like. Oh my God, have you seen? Look at this bottle. Look at the
it's
bottle,
pretty
Julie.
great. We got to get it in here.
In the world, I can't imagine.
Well, by the way, even if, what did you just say? You said that the left is saying or accusing of him of just creating this in order to pay off his fines. By the way, even if that's the truth, so what? So what? I mean, they're going at, honestly, as I see this, I want to buy it to support him because I think that what has been done to him is so bad. So
people have set up a GoFundMe page to help him pay it off.
Yeah.
So it's But my point is that it wasn't even Trump that made these shoes. It was some other company that built it, and they've been working on it for a decade. It had nothing to do, but people want to connect those dots because they wake up in a fever pitch trying to figure out how they can focus all of the things they don't like in life on Orange Man Bad.
Yes, and here's the thing also, because I really want to talk about this more on Timeless, because we're 14% of the way through 2024, but this is only going to get, more talked about throughout the year, and especially as we're barreling towards the election, where people need to understand why Donald Trump has such support. I think a lot of people in the country get it, but I am just around so many people here in Los Angeles, friends, family, friends, everyday people. When I tell them, I'm a conservative commentator, they have absolutely no idea why this guy gets so much support. And we have to set the record straight. And the thing is, people are so sick to death of the double standard. They are so sick of being called election deniers because they had skepticism about the way things were run in 2020. And meanwhile, when Trump took office in 2017, what was the first thing that happened? They launched the Russia collusion investigation, which was a total hoax. And it was found that the FBI had spied on members of the Trump campaign off of a document that was funded by the Clinton campaign. It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it's not. And so Americans they're just sick of this. They're like, wait a minute, you are branding me as something that you have done. And by the way, I'm sorry to get so controversial, but the 2020 election was incredibly shady. I am not going to say affirmatively that it was stolen, but apropos of this great author, Molly Hemingway, she wrote an entire book, which is extraordinarily well researched, on how it was rigged. And that is a fact. The 2020 election was rigged. Big tech alone rigged the 2020 election. 3 weeks before we all went to vote, they suspended the Hunter Biden laptop story. FBI was meeting with Twitter weekly to take down conservative content, including all of the contents of that story. Big tech and the Biden administration were also, there's a lawsuit going to the Supreme Court right now about this. They were in cahoots removing content that was anti-vaccine and anti-Biden. And so I could get into all of the details, and trust me, I have a massive, literally like stacks, binders and binders of this stuff, of all of the shady things that happened with waiving ID requirements. For instance, in the state of Wisconsin, 195,000 of the 1 million absentee voters in that state did not vote with an ID. There were all of these improprieties with ballot harvesting, with people curing ballots in an improper way. Mark Zuckerberg gave $450 million to privatize election procedures. There were individuals funded by Zuckerberg who went in, outside entities, and were overseeing the counting of ballots, the curing of ballots. So I don't want to get down that rabbit hole, but the point is, when people are raising questions about the 2020 election, they are branded as if they are like dictatorial Martians, like they're these insane people. And it just furthers their fire for wanting to support Trump. And I just wish the people who don't understand Trump's support did understand that.
I think the lying about reality has created a very scary situation in this country. Just for you to talk about the election being rigged, you get labeled whatever. And
I'm sure I'll get a label on YouTube.
It creates a couple reactions. It either fires people that are on the fringe way up and they go crazy on either side, or you have the people in the middle that either tune out, because they're too busy and they don't have time for it, they're sick of it, or we're at a point where you can't trust anything. You can't trust the election. You can't trust the media. You can't. You know what I mean? We're getting so far away from where we could be as a country. I think we've talked about this before. The situation it creates, this polarization, where you don't even tell people what you do for a living. I don't want to live in a country like that.
Well,
can't we all be civil and have discussions?
I do, right? But not when I'm in a line in a movie and have to be next to that person for an hour.
But it shouldn't be like
that.
Right,
no,
absolutely. I
absolutely.
don't think it used to be like that. I think there used to be, maybe I'm romanticizing history, but I think there used to be civil discussions between liberals and conservatives. Not this screaming, I make fun of you, I shut down, I don't want to hear anything you have to say, and we can't even question an election that had some weird things going on.
No, weird is putting it lightly. I'm looking here at the chat. Maybe I won't look at the chat, actually. I see people are going at each other in the chat. I don't have time to read that, but here's the final thing I'll say. If Trump gets elected and he starts launching investigations into, these matters, or he starts going after the people who put forth these crazy charges, I don't want people to be surprised, and I want people to understand where it's coming from. And I think that's what I meant when I was talking earlier. I don't think that Trump is going to become a dictator. As I said, I wouldn't vote for him if I thought that was a real threat. But I can already see the movie. I can see what's going to go on. He's going to get into office. He's going to be very angry. He may say some very, kind of cringy stuff. People are going to go, oh my God, it's authoritarian rhetoric. And then he's going to start launching investigations. And I think that these investigations are warranted. But the other side is going to go, oh my God, he's doing what authoritarians do. He's going after his political opponents. And so the point I'm trying to raise is if they don't want him to do those things, they should not be politically persecuting him.
Yeah.
But they're bringing about what they claim they don't want.
I was talking with Carl Jackson yesterday about this, and I've observed something.
Yeah.
When Trump was in office, the crazies were in the streets. Now that Biden's in office, there's no crazy in the streets.
No, there's crazy
just bad
in the streets.
policy, but not like it was.
I hear you.
You know what I'm saying? So if he gets into office, you're going to see crazy in the streets again. It's inevitable. That's what I'm saying.
Do you mean like the riots?
Trade-off.
The riots and looting?
Yes.
Yep. Absolutely.
I don't know why it's that way, how we've become that, but it seems like if there's a Democrat in the White House, there's less crazy in the streets. And if anyone from the right gets into the White House, you start to see social unrest and protest in the streets. And I think that mostly comes from the far left.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see crazy far right protests in the streets right now, even though a lot of people are embarrassed of our president.
Yeah.
Just straight up embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't riot in the streets about it.
I have to tell you, I know I said, well, last thing I'll say about this, and I'm doing it again, but the actual last thing I'll say is that I am worried for 2024. I think it's going to be a bloodbath. We should enjoy the next few months of this year before it gets to November. I mean, I don't want to get into the realm of making predictions, But I think it is fair to predict that some crazy, crazy stuff is going to happen. And people are not going to trust the results.
They're going to say, what about January 6th and the insurrection? That was the far right. There's questions about that, too, whether it was instigated by other things. And you can't even have this conversation without being labeled and pushed aside and disregarded.
Absolutely. And look, what I'll say about January 6th is this. It was a horrible day. You should never, ever, I know you know that.
Never happen.
It was so dumb. It was, above anything else, it was so dumb. Talk about playing into the idea that the other side has of you. I never want to do that. Dennis and I were talking about that on Dennis and Julie. I was talking about a girl who I know who has a big AK-47 necklace. And I was saying, I totally respect her right to have that necklace, but I just don't like playing into the stereotype of what the other side has of me. That, to the nth degree, is what they did on January 6th. It was beyond stupid. But what I'll say about that is that the persecution right now of January 6ers is beyond the beyond. I mean, here's the thing. You know, Ben Shapiro was saying about this Trump indictment, he was saying, Donald Trump is right. They are coming after you, but through him. That is Trump's main campaign thing, and he is absolutely right. And we're seeing it. Yes, a lot, you know, he's like the scapegoat, right? All of the attention, all of the anger, all of the persecution is largely being funneled towards him. But Donald Trump is just standing in Donald Trump is just the guy right now. It really is fomented against right-wingers. And the people who trespass on January 6th, especially the people who vandalize property, I'm a law and order girl, there are consequences for your actions. But there are non-violent individuals like John Strand, who walked into the rotunda, the back of the Capitol, the doors were open, and he walked in and on a bullhorn was giving a speech about vaccines. He is in solitary confinement in prison for 2 years. It is obscene. I was talking the other day, guest hosting for Brandon Tatum, about these pro-lifers. There are 6 pro-lifers who are each getting 10.5 years in prison for non-violently trespassing on an abortion clinic. And as I said, there are statutes against trespassing on abortion clinics. If you violate the law, I'll be the first one to say that there are consequences for actions. But that is an exorbitant consequence for the action. So again, if you don't understand why people vote for Donald Trump, look around you. Look at what's going on.
I've been saying this for years. I did not vote for Donald Trump. I am not a fan of Donald Trump.
Wow, you didn't? I didn't know that.
No. And I hate the left for making me defend Donald Trump because they're so crazy about him. It's obsessive and sick.
Right.
That I have to defend this guy that I don't really want to defend.
Well,
and I didn't vote for. But I feel like the country's probably safer with a conservative in office than whatever this old regime of Democrats is in Washington.
And Donald Trump also, he makes it really hard to support him. I mean, when he said, I'm going to be a dictator on day one, it's like, okay, I get he's joking. I get that he is so upset at the left for going after him that he's just saying stuff to get them riled up. He loves riling them up. And part of me goes, be a better man than that, don't rile them up. Another part of me goes, well, the way they're treating you, I understand it. But as someone who would choose him, given the choices, he makes it really damn difficult. So I understand that and agree. Anyway, let's talk about MyPillow. Let's talk about something light, like a feathery pillow. I use a lot of MyPillow products. I sleep on a MyPillow. I walk in the fantastic My Slippers. I use my towels, and I sleep on the Giza Dream bed sheets. And you can get all of these products at a discount if you use the promo code Hartman or call 1-800-566-6745. Now, MyPillow is obviously known for the pillow, but they didn't stop at the pillow. They created the Giza Dream bed sheets, which I said I sleep on. They look great. They feel great. They're ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. And you can get them in a variety of sizes and colors at a discount for 50% off, as low as $29.98 with the promo code Hartman. They also come with a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty. Just go to mypillow.com and click on the radio podcast square and use the promo code Hartman. There you will get not only this great offer, but also deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the MyPillow 2.0 mattress topper, MyPillow kitchen towel sets, and now even flannel sheets, and so much more. Call 1-800-566-6745 and use the promo code Hartman, or go to mypillow.com and use the promo code Hartman.
Julie.
Yes, misinformation?
I I don't want this to become a daily feature on the show, me talking about people that invented junk food and have passed away.
Oh, here we go.
But I've got another one for you.
After the Pop-Tart guy?
Yeah, Bill Post. Have you ever been to Santa Barbara?
I have.
Have you ever had McConnell's ice cream?
Of course, they have one. They have them all over LA.
Well, the original one is in Santa Barbara, and when I was younger,
Oh, wow.
we used to go to Santa Barbara. That's where my parents met.
Oh.
And I thought, because my last name's McConnell, I thought I was somehow related. It was such a treat to go get McConnell's ice cream. But I have sad news that Ernestine McConnell, the co-founder of McConnell's Fine Ice Creams with her husband Gordon, known as Mac, passed away over the weekend at the age of 104.
Whoa.
And she would have been 105 later this month. But if you're ever in Santa Barbara or near a McConnell's, they now have more locations. It's delicious ice cream and no relation, nor am I related to Mitch McConnell. Blah, 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 blah.
Oh, my God. I love
Just
that.
wanted to share.
No, thank
Ernestine.
you.
Ernestine, what a name.
I really love McConnell's. How cool that she was 105 years old. Their best flavor is the Turkish
Almost
coffee.
105.
I love their Turkish coffee flavor, but just a word to the wise, be careful if you're eating it at night, like me, because then it's 2 a.m. and you're like still up in bed after McConnell's ice cream. That is cool. I wonder who will be next. I'm going to put in bets.
I have a whole file like
I'm
you do
sure.
at home of fast food old people.
Oh, my God.
And I will keep you abreast of developing such...
He's trolling me. I do have these files. I have like 20 of them. They're labeled border, crime, Trump, elections, big tech, etc. Hey, before you laugh at me, it's how I bring the content of the show. I want to see the chat really fast before we go to our final part. Oh my God, they're still fighting. Whoever you guys are, stop fighting. We are a peaceful show. Stop it. No, I'm kidding. You know what? Lively, good debate, free speech. You know the drill. I like all that stuff, but just keep it classy. All right. Final part of today. I told you. I said something cool happened in history on the state. And I wasn't talking about the Communist Manifesto 176 years ago. It's a pretty bad thing. But you know what is cool? It's not what I'm profiling, but Rihanna was born today. Happy birthday, Rihanna. Found that out.
Oh, na.
Oh my God, I knew that was coming.
Oh, na.
I'm so impressed that you know her songs.
I know that song.
Okay, good. What can you name one other song? This is like when I asked Dennis to name some of the Kardashians.
I know she did halftime at the Super Bowl last year. Oh, na. I got nothing else.
It's fine. It's the only one you really need to know. She is amazing. I love Rihanna. Okay, in addition to Rihanna being born today, something happened 62 years ago today in the realm of space. That is that John Glenn was the first American to orbit Earth 62 years ago today. In 1962, if you can do the math, so this happened 1 year before the JFK assassination, or I guess a year and a half before the JFK assassination. And the reason why I say that is because you're going to see some footage. It was just such a different time. You could feel the innocence. You could feel the excitement of the culture in America and what they were doing. And the space race, I have to say, I really envy the Americans who grew up during the time of the space race. I know it was stressful because we were competing with the Soviet Union, but that must have been so awe-inspiring, especially we were on the vanguard of it. So here's the background on the space race. We were competing, as I said, with the Soviets over space domination. And few things have changed, actually, because we know this past weekend there were all these reports that Russia may have put or perhaps is putting a nuclear weapon into space. China and Russia have agreed they want to open a jointly manned moon base by 2035. So there'll be a lot of space stuff coming up. But in 1957, the Soviets were the first to put an object into space. Sputnik, that was the first satellite that was put into space. So Soviets did it first, and we were like, whoa, wait a minute. We've got to get our act together here. But then the Soviets continued. In 1959, they were the first country to reach the surface of the moon. Now, they didn't put a man on the moon. We did that about a decade later. But they put Luna 2, which was another satellite object, on the surface of the moon. There was a crash land in 1959, a soft landing in 1966. And then Yuri Gagarin from the Soviet Union, was the first human to go into space in 1961. By the way, you know the term for a Soviet astronaut?
I do.
What is it?
A cosmonaut.
I am very proud of you. That is cool. Vocab.
Thank you,
Cosmonaut.
Julie.
That should be like a word of a day. I know. So, yep, he was the first cosmonaut.
And before we go any further,
Yeah.
I have to say, and forgiveness to you because you don't really have time to read it, the chat room is not fighting. There's been no fighting in the chat room, and they're upset that you said that they were.
Really?
Yeah,
Well-
they've been civil, and they're chilling. They're good.
Interesting. I read something very quickly. Now I am on the air. I'm live, so I can't retain it. I read
That's why I
something
said forgiveness
that
to
gave
you.
me
You don't have time to read it.
fighting vibes, but that's okay. So
No fighting.
So here's what's important. The year before this happened, the Soviets put the first person, the cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin, into space. So that was when we really went, okay, we've got to catch up. And so it was really an amazing thing that we did 62 years ago today. We had the first American orbit Earth 3 times. Now, Yuri Gagarin, he may have been the first guy to get into space, but he only orbited the Earth 1 time. Total loser, right? This guy, John Glenn, orbited the Earth 3 times. So let's watch some of the news coverage. This is the first clip, and it's showing the footage of him going into space.
Everything is go. The takeoff of the Atlas, blasted aloft by 360,000 pounds of thrust, carries the Mercury gracefully skyward. The Friendship 7, climbing rapidly out of the Earth's atmosphere, exerts a pressure of 6 times the force of gravity on the astronaut. Loud and clear, he reports back to Mercury Control, reading off his instruments, commenting on his reactions, all as coolly and calmly as if he was commuting on the 827. Glenn is able to control the yaw and pitch of the vehicle himself. Now comes the moment when the Mercury is turned so that Glenn will be seated facing backwards. He checks with ground control.
Roger, 0G, and I feel fine. Capsule is turning around.
How cool is that?
Oh, that view is tremendous. Roger, turnaround has started. Capsule turning
That's
around,
not real.
and I could see the booster during
That's
turnaround
real.
just a couple of hundred yards
That's not
behind me. It
real.
was beautiful. Roger, 7, you have a go, at least 7 orbits. Roger, understand go for at least 7 orbits.
Actual
No,
pictures
that-
of Glenn in the capsule will give scientists the opportunity to study his reactions as he passes over the Canary Islands, Africa, the Indian Ocean, Australia, back across the Pacific and over the United States. He speeds at 17,500 miles an hour, reaching a high point of 160 miles and a low altitude of 99 miles. Each of the 3 orbits takes about 90 minutes.
How cool
3
is
times
that?
the Colonel sees the sun rise within a period of 4 hours and 56 minutes. 3 times around the globe for a trip of 81,000 miles before he re-enters the Earth's atmosphere, a shield protecting the astronaut from the intense heat.
How amazing is that? By the way, for the record, I was
You know that's not real footage.
It's okay, but what happened
Those
is
are
real.
animations.
No, of course, but I'm saying what happened
Oh,
was
okay.
real. No, I thought that you were a conspiracy theorist saying like this didn't happen.
Oh, well, I know that there are those people out there.
Wait
and
a
they say,
minute.
if we went there, why haven't we gone back? I was just simply the animation.
You
has
thought
gotten
that
so
I
much
thought
better.
that the Earth
I
thing
did.
was. Oh, that's
I
funny.
did. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, it may have taken me a few seconds yesterday to get your broad joke, but I'm not that dumb of a broad. By the way, for the record, I was kidding when I called Yuri Gagarin a loser. I was totally kidding. I said he orbited the Earth once. It was a joke. Obviously, he was incredible. I admire him hugely. But hey, we orbited the Earth 3 times. That guy, can you imagine? It took 4 hours and 55 minutes. Just your day job. Hey, I'm going to go up to space and go around the Earth 3 times. It's really cool. You can go on the NASA website and read some of his impressions. He took a picture of the state of Florida with his own camera. And his family still has that, which is really cool. As the video said, he saw he saw the sun rise and the sun set on various parts of the Earth. He saw the sunset over the Indian Ocean and then the sunrise over the Pacific Ocean. And then what I think was so cool, they described this on the NASA website. He had done 2 orbits and then he's going for the 3rd and he's over Hawaii and they're like, do you want to do it? Do you not want to do it? And he's like, yeah, let's do it one more time. And I was just picturing like a kid on like a ride at a carnival. Like, let's do it again. Let's just go around the earth a third time. And then he went down, splash into the water, into the Canary Islands. Let's watch a little bit of that.
Glenn is down, hale and hearty. With support cables attached, a pincer-like crane will lift the Friendship 7 aboard.
Years ago today.
The end of a saga. The now famous Friendship 7 is safely lashed to the deck of the destroyer, and the crew prepares to help Glenn from the capsule. First, they attempt to help the colonel from his complex prison through the upper exit in the mouth. They encounter difficulties, and so it is decided to blow off the escape hatch cover. First glimpse of the conquering hero. Colonel John H. Glenn. He left his footprints among the stars.
Oh, God, that is so cool. As much as we talk about all of the bad things that are happening in our country and in the Western world, I think it's really important for us to remember that we've done amazing things.
I agree. I was just going to say that. America. Hurrah!
America.
That was apolitical. We've done amazing
things.
We've
done it.
And if we can do that, we can conquer this. We can find a way around this political divide. We need just a little more Friendship 7.
No. And you sounded like a commentator. Just a little more Friendship 7. They all sounded so cheery in those videos. No, but seriously.
I like the way you said capsule.
Yes.
Capsule.
But it's so nice. It's so nice to remember we really have done many amazing things. And I always look up at the moon and I picture the people who 500, 1,000 years ago, even 200 years ago, 100 years ago, looked up at the moon. And what if someone could go up and tell them, hey, one day someone like you is going to be on that thing. We're going to be able to get you up there. That is amazing. So congrats to us, we Americans, and the Soviets too, for doing that. And how nice too that we had distractions. I think that the moon race was a really nice thing for all of us to get behind and feel pride. And I struggle to think of something that is facilitating that purpose now. Thank you for being with me. I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and I'm glad to hear that the fighting has not ensued in the chat. And please know that you can come back here to watch the live show tomorrow, Wednesday at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern. And by the way, Dennis and Julie has not gone anywhere. I've gotten some emails. It's on Sundays on this channel, 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern. We have moved it early because we know how much you all love Dennis and Julie. So please make sure to still check that out. And you can email me at julie@julie-hartman.com. Thanks for being here. I'll see you soon.